welcome back to another episode of Daily Current Affairs. My name is Aishwarya and I am representing Gallant IAS. So we have quite a few topics today. We have 3 mains topics and almost 5 prelims topics. So moving on to the first topic, that is climate finance. So in my previous classes I have taken a lot about the climate, the global warming and what's going on. So I will tell you that America, Europe, China and such countries, including India you can say, are one of the major polluters. These were the countries which were polluting. But countries like Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, or even we can like South Asia, they are not historically contributing to global warming, but they are the countries which are bearing the brunt of climate change. Now in case of climate finance, we have like two funds which we get. We have the Green Climate Fund by UNFCCC, which was introduced in 2010, and another Clean Technology Fund which is administered by World Bank in 2008. So these are some of the two like groups which fund a lot. We have government, we have private sector which all contribute to this funding. So we have 4 graphs here which we need to deal with today. So you see, we need to reduce our carbon dioxide emission, and our standard is to reach this black line. You see this black line which is almost 2.3 tons per capita. But you see all the countries including UAE, US, Oceania, which is all the Pacific Island countries included, Europe, China, and we have India in this line. Everybody is above the 2.3 tons target and it stands in about 4 ton in average. So that is the present stand on how the carbon dioxide emission is happening since 2010. So see, China is going to reach about 8 tons of per capita. We can see where UAE stand is about 21.8, the US stand is 14.8, but our required target is 2.3 tons per capita. Now if we achieve this, we can achieve the Paris climate goal of reducing or limiting the rise of temperature to about 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now moving on, we have a total climate investment by each World Bank region. Now you see here, we have Sub-Saharan Africa. It gets 1.3% of the total climate investments. Then we have our East Pacific and Asia, we almost 1% of the total climate investment. But see here, US and Canada, the top biggest countries and top biggest contributors, their climate investment is only negligible to 0.3%, whereas that of Sub-Saharan Africa and East Asia and Pacific is approach more than 1% more. So that is the data. Now moving on, we have the chart which shows the total approved climate funds. You see, each agreement and each summit we approve like $100 billion or $1 billion to be invested in this climate change fund. So you see, if we are taking the South Africa, they approved a loan about $3.3 billion. $3.3 billion, but the only fund they get is about $1.3 billion US dollars. This blue states the amount of fund that is allocated for them, and the red is how much they get, how much fund they actually get. Most region only gets about 40% of the approved funds. They don't get more than that. So that is also a reality on how the climate finance and fund is happening. Now, the Climate Vulnerability Index. This index is calculated by the Notre Dame Global Adaptation Initiative. It combines some of the factors like countries' exposure to this climate change, their sensitivity and their capacity to adapt to a climate change. You see all these red dots. These are in debt in distress. These are very distressed countries, and majority countries goes into the Sub-Saharan Africa. Almost the Latin America we have some, East Asian Africa we have some. So these are some of the contributions of how this climate vulnerability is affecting these countries. So the whole thing about this climate finance, we have 2 sources of climate finance, like 2 majorly organized. We have Green Climate Fund and Clean Technology Fund administered by World Bank, and then some countries like Europe, North Africa, America and all actually contribute a lot to climate change and carbon dioxide emissions, but the brunt is borne by some countries like Latin America, East Asia and Pacific, South African countries and so on. So this is all, you can quote these as example if you are getting any questions related to climate in mains or something. These are some of the examples. If it is related to climate funding, you can say the approved funding is about 3.3 billion USD, but what they receive is just 1.3 billion. Also, you can quote it as only 40% of its approved one. Now, moving on to our next topic, we have another topic in environment ecology, that is carbon capture and storage. This is a very interesting article. Carbon capture and storage is basically we are capturing carbon and storing it. Another version of it is carbon capture, utilization and storage, that also come. Now, this CCS has two types. We have a pointed source carbon which is directly, when it's emitted itself, they are capturing and storing it. Another one is direct air capture. We are capturing already present carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and storing. These are the two types of carbon capture and storage we can see. This carbon capture and storage has been in operation since the 1970s, and we have been able to capture this much carbon and store about 200 million tons of carbon dioxide. Now, the article actually talks about that our United Kingdom is actually moving to push for CCS related projects so that they could achieve their net zero targets. So, we need to know more about this carbon capture. How does this work? Now, you see, this is a plant. This plant is generating a lot of carbon dioxide. So, what they do is they collect this carbon dioxide, they compress the carbon dioxide and they transport it via pipes to an underground location. It is in the rock beds about 1 meter depth and all. They pump this carbon dioxide inside and store it. This is how the storage of carbon dioxide actually takes place. And you can even utilize it for purpose. We can utilize carbon dioxide for a lot of purpose. Now, let's see that. This is what I have told you, we are storing, it is in underbed, this is carbon dioxide, how it's stored, or we can actually utilize this carbon dioxide, that is CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. If you are utilizing, you can do it like directly without compressing or altering the carbon dioxide. You can use this carbon dioxide directly for solvents, or you can use in productivity in agriculture and all. You could provide for food productivity and all. You can use it in EOR, that is enabled oil regions. And then biologically you can use for fuels like methane, methanol, bio oils, chemicals, so plastics, mineral, these are some chemical waste, biological waste and direct waste in which we can actually use the carbon dioxide. So, this is some of the CCS and CCUS utility. Now, basically this structure needs a lot of funding and this structure still needs research and development. So, these are some of the challenges we still face when we are looking into new technologies like this. But this is very beneficial because the merit point is that it will help us achieve our net zero targets. Now, moving on to our next topic, we have polity and constitution, a very big issue that has been happening in the newspaper. We have Delhi Service Bill. Now, the first thing which you need to know here is that Delhi and Pondicherry are the only union territories which has a legislative assembly. So, what does really happen in union territory? In union territory, the central government has a direct control via lieutenant government or administrator. But in Delhi and Pondicherry, there is already a legislative assembly. So, there would always be, like in Delhi, we have seen that there is always tussle between the elected government via the legislative assembly and the central government representative, that is the lieutenant governor. This bill actually increases the tussle between the lieutenant governor and the elected Delhi government. This ordinance actually empowers, this Delhi Service Bill actually empowers the lieutenant governor to control the services, which means our bureaucrats, the IAS officers or the IPS officer, to control their appointment, to control their transfer. These are usually done by the Delhi government now, but the ordinance empower the lieutenant governor of the central government to have the final say in the transfer or the posting of the bureaucrats or the officers. Now, this National Capital Civil Service Society. Now, this consists that these bureaucrats are elected, transferred or appointed by this committee. This committee consists of a chief minister, chief secretary and a principal home secretary. But apart from this, whatever decision they make, the final decision is taken by the lieutenant governor. So, that is how the origin of these many tussles actually takes place. There is a lot of controversy happening, there is a lot of debate happening in this topic as well. But the major thing which we need to know is that if there is a tussle between the government, it is going to have a lot of issues. We can see it would be a constitutional violation as per Article 239AA. All these such rights are empowered to the Delhi state government and not to the central government. So, such that there will be constitutional violation. It will affect the federalism, the center-state relations will be affected by this. It will increase the power tussle. If the power tussle actually increases, it will also affect the delivery of the public service. And also these bureaucrats are in between this central government and the state government. So it's actually going to create uncertainty and the confusion for them also. So these are some of the issues regarded with this Delhi Service Bill. Way forward is that we need to ensure a balance between the central and the state government. The power has to be distributed such that the constitutional machinery is not violated and there is an efficient delivery of public service as well. So moving on to the next topic, we have a very small topic in science and technology. Now, if a person has a cardiovascular issue, like I have a heart problem, I have gone through one stroke, I have blood pressure. In this current state, I have to take multiple tablets a day. I may have to take 5 to 7 tablets a day. So this author or this scientist had brought out an easy way by which a poly pill consists of 3 to 4 pills or drugs combined. This is stated to have reduced the future risk of heart attacks or having a cardiovascular problems. It could reduce the heart attacks by 50% and strokes by 40%. This is simply that a 4 to 5 drugs which is required for this cardiovascular disease are combined together to a single pill called as poly pills. A single pill, poly pill. That is the main thing which you need to know in this. This has been approved by the WHO and added to the essential medicines list of 2023. And also this is not a new drug, but a drug that helps in the delivery mechanism which improves the medication adherence, and also this is very cheap compared to if you are buying 7 to 8 medicines. This is very cheap because you just need to get one pill. And also this poly pills is not an initiative which is new. This scientist has been going through 2 decades of how to make this poly pills be effective and collecting evidence of how this actually reduces heart attacks. Okay, rather than taking multiple medicine, you just have to take one poly pill. That is what the entire article talks about. Moving on, we have the Lok Sabha passing bill on birth registration. So you see, they want to create the birth certificates and death certificate. They want to digitalize it so that there won't be need for multiple documents to prove your birth, death and all, or the place of birth. That is what main thing is, digitalization of the birth and death registrations. It is done by amending the Registrations of Birth and Death Act 1969. It also provides for the appointment. There are some other features like there is appointment of a Registrar General in India for issuing general direction for the registration of birth and death. Also, it provides for a national and state level database so that they could digitize this and add it to the number of deaths or number of births happening per day. The bill makes it mandatory for states to register the birth and the death digitally on the portal called the Central Civil Registration System. So this is the portal through which the state government and the national governments have to register all this. What are the benefits with this? There is a proper systematic, like in previous year, even if I consider my father or mother, they don't have their legible birth certificate yet. But with this, we can get a legible birth certificate in which the hospital where the birth or death happened, they would keep on registering it in the portal as well. So it would become efficient and would help in the transparent delivery of the public service and social benefits. The database will also get updated in the National Population Register. So we could actually avoid the surveys kind of stuff, and it automatically updates the National Population Register as well. And also for ration cards, property registration also, it is beneficial if we have it digitalized. It also simplifies the registration process for adoption, orphans, abandoned children of people, surrender or surrogate children. So these are some of the benefits of by how digitalization of birth and death would help. Now moving on to our next topic, we have GI tags given to a lot of crafts in it. This GI tag which you need to know is not given to a single person, but this is given to a community or a region which produces a particularly very significant craft. It can be given to craft or a food product or a fruit, vegetables. It depends upon this region and the communities of what is available there. This is given by the Geological Indications of Good and Registration Protection Act of 1999. This actually provides for the registration and better protection of the geological indicators. Currently in India, we have more than 400 GI tags given out. It is also governed by the WTO's TRIPS agreement, that is TRIPS agreement. Now this is one of the GI tags that is given, Jaisalmer Dhatu Silpa. It's a metal craft which originates in Rajasthan. This is recently given. Then we have a Vilskar Utka Kala craft in the camel, some kind of craft is taking place. In Goa we have Mankun mango, which is very famous in the Goa region. Also in Goan Bekan, it's kind of a pudding, cake pudding that is very special in Goa. We have Udaipur Kofgari metal craft. Then we have other kind of embroidery works and others like Bilkar Kashidari craft, Jodhpur Bandesh craft. So it see that these geological indication tags keeps on coming in India. So what we need to know, if we are there for mains and all, what we need to know is a few or 4 to 5 which is latest updated. These are going to come again. So I won't ask you to remember this, but you should know at least a few GI tags which is given in India. Maybe if it's like if near the exam you could write the updated version of it too. Now moving on to our next topic, there has been an increase in GST revenue collections. In the last month you can see here this grey is the GST revenue collections of the year, financial year 23-24 that is happening now. In June there was a collection of about 1.61 lakh crore, and now in July the GST collection is about 1.65 lakh crore. That is how the GST has been growing. This 1.6 lakh crore target has been crossed about 5 times. 1.6 lakh crore for the 5th time we are getting such a high revenue. But this, see, if there is a point difference, like there is only a growth of about 10.8%, which is the slowest growth which is encountered in this year round. Now also it indicates that there has been a 0.8% decline in the imports of goods in July from this year also. These are some of the basic ideas. The thing which you need to know here mainly is what is GST. You should also know the GST Council. I don't have that time to take everything. That is why I am telling you the latest trends of how the GST revenue is growing. There has been a dip in GST in the COVID time, and since then after COVID we have been experiencing 1.4 lakh crore, 1.5 lakh crore, and now we have reached above 1.6 lakh crores and above of GST revenue collections. Now moving on to our next topic, we have Chandrayaan 3 journey. I told you July 14 the Chandrayaan 3 took off from India, and it expected to reach the moon by August 23rd. So you see here, Chandrayaan 3 is India's 3rd moon mission. It has aimed to land a rover at the lunar south pole. In Chandrayaan 2, the orbiter, a rover and a lander was there. Only the orbiter was successful. So in the Chandrayaan 3, we are not sending an orbiter, but a lander and a rover is what we are sending. 3 major modules are propulsion module, lander and a rover. Orbiter is already there, and we are sending this to mainly south pole of the moon, lunar south pole. Now the south pole specialty is that it is always dark and there is no sunlight. So we are expected to find a lot of new things compared to the other parts or north pole or the other poles of the moon. We are expected to find new origins of the solar system, the origins of the earth, and we are expected to study the water type of molecules all from south pole of the moon. Also you see, this is how the trajectory we need to, I will tell you a little about how the trajectory path works. Suppose this is the earth, this is the moon. Now you see here, we can't go straight from earth to moon. There has to be a maneuver and trajectory path. So in earth we start from here, we give some more acceleration, it reaches here, it reaches here. Now we cross 1, 2, 3 and 4 and about a 5. This is the stage in which our Chandrayaan 3 has completed this 5th stage. Now it is going from here to a trajectory path. Now it gets into the orbit cycle of the moon. There 1, 2, 3, 4 and finally we reach the near surface of the moon. That is the trajectory path is gained, and India, like our Chandrayaan 3 is expected to reach our trajectory path near moon by August 23rd, and we have actually completed this 5 maneuvers and we are starting in the stage of trajectory to the moon. So that is on the Chandrayaan 3 update we have. So this is the lunar transfer trajectory which I have been telling you about. Now we have 2 questions to be discussed, and that's it for today. So let's discuss the first question. Discuss India's achievement in the field of space science and technology. How does this application, this technology help India in the socio-economic development? So you see here, India ISRO, we started our space research by in 1960s, and since then India has been taking a lot of head leaps In the case of space technology development, we are in par with a lot of other countries like US, China, Japan in the case and Europe in the case of the space technology development. So what are India's achievements? We have MOM, that is MOM, that is the Mangalyaan mission to Mars. We have PSLV, is one of the launch vehicles created by India. It's called the workhouse launch vehicle because majority of launches take place from PSLV. Recently, a PSLV C-56 took Singapore satellite DSAR, which is launched on Sunday. So, you can quote these kind of examples also. Now, India's mission to moon, Chandrayaan 1, 2, 3, you can quote the examples and you can write the achievements. We found the presence of water in moon in Chandrayaan 1. That was confirmed during the launch and during the cycle of Chandrayaan 2. This presence of water in moon was confirmed. So, you can write some kind of achievements we have developed in that sense also. India's cryogenic engine, that has been a big major success in which India developed a cryogenic engine. Remote sensing satellite, we have been using that for agriculture, for sensing, for our internal security and such. So, these are some of the space kind of achievements. We can also write some international achievements where now India is developing NSIL, New Space India Limited, where we are commercializing our space exposure. We are getting a lot of investments and funding from the foreigners and we are collaborating in a lot of fields so that India's space grows about $100 billion by 2040. I have taken this in my later video where we are thinking of getting $40 billion by 2040, but with all the growth of space achievements, more contributions and investment, we can reach about $100 billion by 2040. Now, how does this help socio-economic development? Now, we are surveying, we can find the presence of minerals, we can present the find of natural resources. Also, various meteorological surveys, we need to get early warning system for cyclones, for floods. So, these kind of meteorological surveys will be helpful in the case of the space application. Also, it has helped a lot in our communications, establishing communications, education. INSAT 3D satellite was sent for education. It has helped a lot in our green revolution. Also, GramSat, especially for Gram Panchayat and rural areas where they could do their cultivation and rural development. So, these are some achievements of space tech. These are some socio-economic development. In the conclusion, you can state about NSIL or a target to reach $100 billion. These will be a boost to your answers. And also, I will give you a practice question which you need to practice, and I will be discussing this first tomorrow next class. It's about the Delhi Service Bill, how it's causing a tussle between the Lieutenant Government and the Chief Minister and how it is affecting the constitution and administration of the Delhi governance. So, please answer this and I will be discussing it tomorrow first thing. Thank you and have a nice day. You can get this PDF in our Telegram channel, Gallant IAS. Thank you. We will meet again tomorrow.